Now let's put all these layers and passes that we've split apart back together in the compositor. Click into the compositing workspace at the top of the interface. If you don't see it listed in one of the tabs, just click on the Add button, go down to VFX, and you'll see it there. Click on the Use Node checkbox, and go ahead and either minimize or remove the dope sheet editor at the bottom. We won't be needing that. Two nodes have been created for us, a Render Layers node and a Composite node. The Render Layers node brings in the render of our scene we just made, and the Composite node is the output for our node tree. In order to see our work, we need a Viewer node. Shift A and go into the Output section. Or if you have Node Wrangler activated in your add-ons, which is recommended, you can simply Control-Shift-Click. Any node you want to view, simply Control-Shift-Click on it and it will connect to the viewer. With Backdrop activated, we can see our composition in the background behind the nodes. To move that backdrop around, Alt-Middle-Click allows you to pan, while V and Alt-V will zoom in and out. You can also adjust these in the View tab on the side here. Alternately, you can turn off Backdrop and add an Image Viewer window in your UI. Just set the image to Viewer node. This takes up a bit more screen real estate, but visually is a little less cluttered. And this is actually my preferred way of working. I find it much easier to zoom and pan around the image. Alright, one last tip. Let's activate the new GPU setting to speed up our processing. This is brand new to Blender 4.2 and really seems to help. In the right side panel, go to the Options tab, and where it says CPU, change that to GPU. If you don't see that panel, press N and it should show up. So with the Render Layers node, we have access to all the view layers we created. And you'll notice when we're on the guitar layer, all these sockets correlate to the passes we set up. With the Node Wrangler add-on, we can Control-Shift-Click on it multiple times to cycle through all the sockets and look at our passes. Let's get these render layers put back together. We have 4 of them since we won't be using that everything view layer. Let's switch this first node to the backdrop layer, duplicate it with Shift D, move it down, and let's select our other objects layer. Shift D again and set it to the guitar layer. And lastly, Shift D one more time, and this will be the volume light layer. Now to place the other objects over the backdrop layer, we have a couple options. Again, Shift A brings up our node menu, and in the color and then mix menu, we can use either a mix or an alpha over. And in this particular instance, it makes more sense to use an alpha over, since the image has an alpha channel. If we drag that right over the noodle will turn white, and we can release the mouse button and drop it right into place. You can see the backdrop layer is now plugged into socket number 1, while socket number 2 is layered directly over top based on its alpha channel. This solid color of white has a solid alpha channel, which is why the entire image looks white. If we plug our other objects layer into that socket, you can see our render has been placed over top. When using nodes, selecting a node and pressing M will mute the node, basically turning it off. And you can see that the first socket then bypasses directly through this node, allowing us to toggle the composite very quick. And that's it. Combining render layers is really that simple. Let's duplicate the alpha over with Shift D, connect the output of the first alpha over into the first socket of the second alpha over, and then let's plug in the image output from the guitar render layer into the second socket. Now for the volume light layer, we'll use that mix node I mentioned earlier. Shift A, go down to Color, Mix, and choose the Mix Color node. Drop it at the end of the node tree and plug the volume light into it. At first it seems like something's broken, but we just have to set the correct blending mode. Change Mix to Add. This will add all the pixel values to the layer underneath, and the result of that is that nothing gets darker, only brighter, which is perfect for us in this instance. Now all of our render layers are combined into the render result we had before we separated it into render layers. So the big advantage of this is, say you want to change the color or exposure of the background without affecting anything else in the scene. You can do that now by adding adjustment nodes to only the backdrop layer. I'll Shift A into Color, Adjust, and grab a Hue Saturation Value node. Place that directly after the backdrop render layer node. Now we could do a color shift using the Hue slider. Or we could drag down the value, darkening our entire background, again without affecting anything else. And we're doing this in basically real time, no re-rendering from 3D. Hopefully you can start to see how powerful and fast this can be. In the next lesson, we'll take a look at recombining the individual passes, and you'll see how we can tweak even more significant details without re-rendering anything.